It usually doesn't start with a dramatic moment, it starts with something stupidly small. You turn off the light, or at least you mean to. The room goes half dark, the kind of dark where the hallway light still leaks under the door, just enough to draw a thin line on the floor. Your body is tired in that heavy, slow way, but your mind keeps its shoes on. You lie down, the pillow already warm from the day, and you tell yourself you're going to sleep early this time. You say that almost every night now, half joking, half embarrassed. Your jaw is tighter than you notice, shoulders pressed a little too hard into the mattress. For 3 seconds, there is almost silence. Just the faint noise of distant traffic, maybe a dog somewhere, the low hum of some appliance you don't even see anymore. And then, almost automatically, your hand reaches for the phone again. You didn't decide? Not really. Your thumb already knows the exact distance, the exact angle, the exact app. Suddenly, the room is not dark anymore. It's blue. That specific blue that doesn't belong to the night or to the day, just to screens. Your tired eyes squint for a second, then give up resisting. A video autoplays, then another and another. You're not even curious, you're just there, scrolling like someone standing in a hallway who forgot why they walked there in the first place. Meanwhile, somewhere behind all of this, a part of you is quietly asking, why does it feel louder now that it's finally quiet? Because the strange thing is, it's not just the phone, even if you put it face down on the nightstand, even if you actually manage to turn it off, something inside keeps going. Thoughts replay, the conversation you wish had gone differently, the message you still haven't answered, the unfinished task, the vague fear that you are missing something important and you don't even know what it is. The day is over, but it doesn't feel over inside your head. Instead, it feels like all the noise that had nowhere to go during the day finally found an empty room and decided to move in. You were waiting for silence, but when it finally arrived, it didn't feel like peace. It felt like your mind suddenly turned the volume up on everything you had postponed feeling, and lying there, staring at the dark ceiling or that small crack of hallway light, you start to wonder, quietly, almost ashamed, why nights that look so calm from the outside can feel so crowded on the inside. There's a particular kind of tired that doesn't show up in medical checkups. You still get up, still answer messages, still do what needs to be done. From the outside, your life probably looks fine enough, maybe even good, on paper. But nights have a way of ignoring what things look like on paper. You know that pattern already. You tell yourself you'll stop scrolling after this one video, after this one post, after you just check this one notification. You even believe yourself for a second. And then suddenly, you're somewhere completely different from where you started. Some stranger's apartment tour, someone's breakup story, a clip from a show you don't even watch. Your brain is full, but your life still feels blank around the edges. You notice it in these tiny, almost embarrassing ways. You open the same three apps in the exact same order without thinking. You scroll past the same type of jokes, the same recycled sounds, the same faces doing the same expressions. You don't even laugh anymore. You just exhale a little harder through your nose and keep going. Half of you is there on the screen. The other half is somewhere else entirely, floating above your own bed, watching you from the ceiling. There are nights when you put the phone down and it doesn't feel like relief, it feels like ripping off a bandage you forgot you were wearing. Suddenly, the thoughts underneath are exposed again. The conversation that didn't sit right, the thing you said 3 days ago that still makes your stomach tighten, the quiet sense that you're late for something in your own life and you can't name what it is. And maybe you've noticed this strange habit. The quieter the room gets, the more dramatic your mind becomes. Not in a theatrical way exactly, more in this low level, constant commentary that refuses to shut up. You replay whole days second by second. You rehearse future arguments that might never happen. You imagine worst case scenarios while staring at the same corner of the ceiling. It's not that your day was objectively catastrophic. Most days, nothing spectacular happens. Emails, small tasks, conversations that blur together. You do what you're supposed to do. You answer when people call. You laugh at the right moments. And yet, when you're finally alone with yourself, there's this persistent background question. Why does it still feel like I'm missing something? Some nights you catch yourself doing small, almost ridiculous things to avoid being alone with your own head. You replay a video you've already seen 3 times, you scroll back through someone's profile you don't even talk to, you open the fridge, stare at the shelves with no real hunger, then close it again. You put on some noise, podcast, playlist, random video, just to avoid the sound of your own breathing in the room. And underneath all of that, there's a quiet, uncomfortable recognition. It's not just that the world is loud, it's that you don't really know what to do with yourself when it finally gets quiet. You might not say that out loud. If someone asks, you probably joke about being chronically online or say you're just a night person, that your brain is more active after midnight. But that's not the whole story. There's a difference between being a night person and being someone who dreads the moment the lights go off, because that's when the unpaid emotional bills of the day finally arrive. And maybe, if you're honest with yourself, it's been like this for a while. Not just a bad week, not just a stressful month, more like a slow accumulating pattern, the kind that doesn't feel dramatic enough to call a crisis, but also doesn't feel small enough to ignore, a kind of quiet misalignment between the life you perform during the day and the life you feel at night. If any of this sounds uncomfortably familiar, you're not alone. That phrase is overused, but here it isn't meant as comfort marketing. It's just statistically impossible that you are the only person lying in a blue lit room, eyes burning a little, mind racing, body exhausted, trying to figure out why the dark makes everything inside louder instead of quieter. There's a strange moment that keeps repeating itself even if you don't name it. It happens somewhere between I should sleep and just one more thing. On the surface, it looks simple. A person in a dark room, a tired face lit by a screen, a finger scrolling. But if you slow it down, really slow it down, something else appears. It's not just a habit, it's a kind of quiet escape. Not escape from the world exactly, from yourself. Because if you pay attention, the noise at night isn't random, it's structured in this almost predictable way. First come the practical thoughts, what you forgot, what you have to do tomorrow, who you still need to answer. Then come the social anxieties. The thing you said, the way someone looked at you, the feeling that maybe you were too much or not enough. And beneath all of that, there is a deeper, more uncomfortable layer. This vague sense that you are slowly drifting away from the person you wanted to be. You might not call it that, you might call it stress or burnout or just say, I've been weird lately, but somewhere inside, you feel it, a growing distance between your inner life and the way you actually live. Like you keep outsourcing your attention to anything that will borrow your mind for a few minutes so you don't have to inhabit it fully. It's almost as if over time you've become more comfortable being a spectator of other people's lives than the main participant in your own. During the day, you perform the necessary roles: worker, friend, family member, whatever combinations your life requires. At night, when those roles quiet down, something else should appear, some kind of inner center, a sense of being with yourself. But instead, there is this instinct to immediately run away from that meeting. And maybe that's one of the most exhausting parts. Not just the noise itself, but the way you feel pulled away from your own inner life, as if you can't quite stay with yourself without adding some distraction on top. Silence becomes suspicious. Stillness feels like an empty room where something might confront you. So you keep the noise going even if it's subtle. A video in the background, a playlist, a timeline you pretend you're not really paying attention to. Somewhere long before this particular version of life, someone noticed that humans are surprisingly good at abandoning themselves when reality feels too sharp, that we find clever ways to avoid being alone with our own thoughts, even while claiming we crave peace. We call it entertainment, or staying informed, or just winding down. But underneath those words, there is often a quieter truth. We are afraid of what might surface if nothing interrupts us. This isn't about blaming yourself for using your phone at night. It's not that simple. The phone is just the most visible object in the room. What really hurts is the pattern behind it, this slow training of the nervous system to associate silence with discomfort and noise with safety, to associate being with yourself with unease and being distracted with relief. And yet, even inside that pattern, there is a small, persistent part of you that doesn't want to live like this. You can feel it when you put the phone down and stare at the ceiling a little longer than usual. When you pause a video halfway and just listen to the faint sound of rain outside or the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. There is a quiet curiosity in you, even if it's buried under exhaustion. What would happen if I didn't run away from myself tonight? The loudness of your mind at night might not be proof that you are broken. It might be evidence of something else, that there is a whole inner life you've been postponing, a backlog of feelings and questions that had nowhere to go during the day, finally knocking when the external world calms down. It's uncomfortable, yes, but discomfort and damage are not the same thing. Sometimes the noise is not a flaw, it's a signal that some part of you is still trying to reach you. And maybe that's why, even after hours of scrolling, you still end up feeling strangely unsatisfied. Because distraction can numb, but it cannot replace the experience of actually being in contact with yourself. It can fill time, but it cannot fill that particular emptiness that appears when you realize how long you've been living slightly beside your own life. You might not know what to do with this yet. You don't need a perfect plan. For now, it might be enough just to notice that the loudness at night isn't random chaos. It has a shape, a logic, a kind of emotional grammar, and if you listen closely, not all at once, not dramatically, just in small, tolerable doses, you might start hearing something inside that doesn't just want less noise, it wants a different kind of presence. There's a subtle moment, almost too small to notice, when distraction stops feeling like choice and starts feeling like reflex. You tell yourself you're just going to check something, the time, a message, a notification. But by the time you remember why you picked up the phone, you're already 3 layers deep into someone else's life. It's like walking into a room to grab your keys and finding yourself, 20 minutes later, reorganizing a drawer you didn't even care about, except now the drawer is your attention. Somewhere in that slow drift, you can feel a quiet split forming. On one side, there's the person you move as, the one who works, replies, posts, answers, smiles at the right moments. On the other side, there's the person who watches all of this happen and feels strangely absent from it, as if your life is technically yours, but emotionally rented out. You notice it at night because night is honest in a way the day never is. During the day, you can hide inside structure, tasks, messages, noise, rushing. But when you're lying there in the blue glow, with your eyes getting heavier and your brain refusing to follow, the performance gets tired before you do. What's left is whatever you've been avoiding. Sometimes it surfaces in small, almost ridiculous questions. Why do I feel lonelier in my own bed than I do in a crowded feed? Why does my mind replay the same 3 memories as if there were no other scenes available? Why do I feel so far away from myself even when no one else is here? And then there's the other voice, the practical one, rolling its eyes a bit. You're overthinking, you're just tired. Everyone feels like this. Just sleep. So you try. You turn the phone face down, feel the slight roughness of the nightstand under your fingers, shift the blanket that somehow always ends up twisted around your legs. The room feels colder than you expected. Your shoulders sink a little deeper into the mattress. You close your eyes. For a second, there's almost a soft quiet. Then the mind starts listing again. Not just what you did, but what you didn't become. Not just who you saw, but who you no longer talk to. Not just what happened today, but everything that never quite turned into the life you thought you'd have by now. Maybe this is where it gets confusing, because from the outside, your life might look normal or even successful. You have responsibilities, connections, a version of stability, you're not collapsing, you're functioning. But the loudness at night reveals something functioning isn't the same as feeling alive. There is a particular kind of emptiness that doesn't look like emptiness. It looks like constant engagement, constant input, constant micro distractions. You're never really bored, but you're also never really present. Your mind is busy, but your inner world feels underused, like a room you keep walking past but never enter. And maybe, just maybe, the noise at night is not your enemy. It might be the last honest part of you, refusing to quietly accept a life where you're always slightly elsewhere. The mind gets loud when something important has been ignored for too long. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way, more like a neglected friend raising their voice after years of being talked over. Of course, that doesn't make it easier when it's 1:47 a.m. and your heart is doing that subtle restless beating, not quite panic, not quite calm. Your jaw is tight again, your tongue pressed lightly against your teeth, you're breathing a little shallower than it needs to be. You stare at the ceiling or the line of hallway light or the vague reflection of your own face in the black screen of the TV, and you wonder, is this just how life is now? Always half tired, half overstimulated, half here. Then another thought appears, quieter, not fully formed. What if this loudness is not asking me to fix everything, but just to stop abandoning myself so quickly? You don't have to answer that tonight. You don't need to transform your entire existence before morning. That demand is another kind of noise. For now, it might be enough to notice that some part of you is still protesting, still knocking on the door, still refusing to be completely swallowed by autoplay, and maybe the simplest, most radical act in this small, ordinary, late night room is this: to stay with yourself for a few breaths longer than you usually do, even if your mind is loud, even if nothing gets resolved, even if all you can say is, I'm here, I haven't left yet. At some point, the night stops feeling like a clock and starts feeling like a room. The numbers on the screen lose meaning. 1:23, 1:47, 2:12. They all blur into the same quiet. Outside, the city has mostly given up. Maybe there's a car every now and then, a distant engine passing by like a short thought that never really lands. If you listen closely, there's a kind of soft emptiness in the air, the kind that only appears when most people are already asleep. Inside your room, everything has its own small presence: the shape of a chair in the corner, half covered with clothes, the shadow of a plant against the wall, the faint line of hallway light that still hasn't gone completely dark. Your blanket is a little tangled around your legs, one foot escaping to feel the colder part of the mattress. Your pillow carries the faint smell of your shampoo and something else you can't name. The accumulated days pressed into fabric. The phone is nearby, of course. You know exactly where it is, even with your eyes closed. A small rectangle of potential noise resting on the nightstand, or on your chest, or somewhere on the bed where your hand can find it without really looking. Even when the screen is off, you can almost feel its weight in the room, like an invitation you keep declining and accepting at the same time. For a moment, you don't touch it. You just lie there, listening to the tiny sounds most days erase: the quiet click of something cooling down in the house, the soft friction of fabric when you shift your shoulders, your own breathing uneven at first, then slowly trying to remember what relax feels like. There's a strange intimacy in being awake when you know most people around you are not. It's as if the world has stepped out of the room for a while, leaving you alone with your life. No new messages, no new posts, no external emergencies calling your name. Just you, the ceiling, the dark, and whatever your mind does when nobody is watching. Thoughts come and go in small waves, not all of them meaningful. Some are just leftovers. A line from a video, a face you scrolled past, a random sentence you heard earlier in the day. Others carry more weight: a memory that still feels warm, a regret that still stings a little, a possibility you don't fully trust yet. They don't arrive in order. They appear, disappear, return, change shape, contradict themselves. You notice that even your inner voice doesn't sound like a lecture. It drifts, it doubles back. It says things like, maybe I'm making this bigger than it is, and then a few minutes later, or maybe it is big and I just don't want to admit it. You argue with yourself quietly without raising your voice. You lose track of which side you're on. In this slower space, something subtle happens. The noise doesn't fully disappear, but it stretches out. There's more distance between one thought and the next, enough to see them a little more clearly, like cars passing at night instead of a blur of traffic during the day. You start to recognize certain patterns: the way your mind jumps quickly to self blame, the way it rehearses worst case scenarios, the way it downplays your own pain as soon as you start to name it. You don't fix anything. You don't need to. There's no dramatic realization. No sudden sense of peace flooding the room, just a small, quiet shift. Instead of being inside the storm of your thoughts, you're watching the clouds move from a little farther back. You're still in the weather, but you're not pressed against the window anymore. Every now and then, your hand twitches toward the phone again. A muscle memory, a learned escape route. You feel the urge rise, that tiny spike of just check something. And you notice it this time, not with judgment, not with a speech about dopamine or habits, just with a simple observation. There it is again, the impulse to leave myself. You don't always resist. Sometimes you pick it up anyway, let the blue light spill back into the room, let a video play, scroll a little. Sometimes you put it back down after a few seconds, surprised that you can. Sometimes you don't. Human nights are inconsistent like that. But in between those small choices, the room keeps existing. The dark ceiling doesn't move. The hallway light eventually goes out. The air stays cool against the part of your arm not covered by the blanket. Your body, despite everything, is trying to rest. Your mind, despite everything, is trying to make sense of a life that sometimes feels like it's happening slightly to the side of where you are. Maybe in this in between place, you start to feel a different possibility. Not a solution, not a plan, just a possibility that nights don't have to be only about escaping the volume in your head, but could slowly become a place where you learn how to be with it without turning it into an enemy. You're not there yet, you don't need to be. Tonight, it might be enough that you're here, in this quiet, imperfect late night room, noticing more than you used to, leaving a little more space between one distraction and the next, letting your mind be loud without immediately abandoning yourself. There's a particular relief in realizing that whatever is happening inside your head right now, you're not the only person who ends up here. Somewhere, in other dim rooms, other people are lying in their own beds, staring at their own ceilings, feeling their own strange mix of exhaustion and restlessness. Different lives, different stories, same late night scene, same blue glow, same quiet negotiation with themselves about whether to reach for the phone or not. If you could zoom out just for a second, you might see it. A whole map of tiny rectangles of light in the dark, each one holding someone who also said just one more and didn't quite mean it. People who also replay conversations, people who also feel like they're living slightly off center from their own lives, people who also feel their mind get louder exactly when the world gets quiet. This doesn't magically fix anything. It doesn't make your thoughts less intense or your heart instantly calm, but there is a subtle difference between being alone and being the only one. Right now, you're alone in your room. You are not the only one in this feeling. You might not talk about it. Most people don't. We mention the surface things. I haven't been sleeping well. My schedule's a mess. I'm on my phone too much. We laugh about it like it's just a bad habit, something a bit silly and self inflicted. But beneath the jokes, there's a quieter truth. Nights like this are where a lot of our unspoken lives actually happen. Maybe that's why this kind of conversation matters. The kind that doesn't try to turn your night into a productivity project. We're not here to optimize your sleep or redesign your routine. We're just here in the same atmosphere, in the same emotional weather, trying to describe something most people feel but rarely put into words. You don't have to perform anything here. You don't have to explain why you're still awake. You don't have to justify why you check that person's page again, or why your heart speeds up a little when you think about tomorrow, or why your chest feels heavier than your day technically deserves. This space doesn't ask you to rank your pain or defend it. If it feels heavy to you, it's heavy. That's enough. So, maybe for a few minutes, you can let go of the idea that you should already know how to handle all of this. Of course, you reach for distraction. Of course, you keep the noise close. The world taught you over and over that stillness is suspicious and silence is wasted time. It makes sense that your nervous system doesn't trust quiet yet. There's nothing wrong with you for finding it uncomfortable, and yet, despite all of that training, here you are, lying in the dark, listening, noticing. Even if your first instinct is to escape, another part of you stays. You wouldn't have made it this far into this video if that part didn't exist. There is inside you a small but real desire, not just to be distracted from yourself, but to actually be with yourself in a way that doesn't feel like punishment. You don't need to know what to say to yourself. You don't need some perfectly wise inner monologue. Maybe tonight, staying is as simple as not mocking your own feelings when they show up, as simple as admitting silently, yes, this is hard, instead of immediately telling yourself to get over it, as simple as noticing the way your shoulders sink a little when you finally allow that truth. If you listen closely, even your body seems relieved when you stop fighting your own mind for a moment. Your breathing deepens just a bit. Your jaw unclenches without you forcing it. The bed feels a fraction softer. Nothing dramatic, just small physical signs that being understood, even by yourself, changes the texture of a moment. So we stay here together for a little while. Not to solve the night, not to reorganize your entire life in one sitting, just to keep you company while your thoughts slowly untangle themselves enough to let sleep come closer. If it doesn't come yet, that's okay too. There's no timer running out on your worth. You are not behind on some invisible emotional schedule. You are a person in a room at night with a loud mind and a tired body, trying to figure out how to live in a world that constantly invites you to leave yourself. The fact that you're even noticing this says something important. You haven't completely disappeared. Maybe that's enough for tonight to exist fully in this small space, to let yourself be seen, even if only by your own attention and by a voice coming through a screen that isn't asking you to be anything other than what you already are in this exact moment: awake, confused, tired, human. There's a point in the night when even your questions start getting tired. The thoughts are still there, but their edges feel a little less sharp. The same worries exist, but they're not standing quite so close to your face. The room hasn't changed. Same shadows, same faint smell of fabric and skin and day old air, but something in the way you're sitting inside it has shifted, even if just a little. You're still you. Same life, same messages waiting, same unfinished things. Nothing has been dramatically solved in the last few minutes, and yet there's a bit more air between you and the noise, enough to breathe without feeling like you have to earn it. Maybe you notice that your body has been slowly, stubbornly on your side this whole time. Your breathing found its own rhythm again without a plan. Your shoulders dropped by a few millimeters. Your hands, which kept reaching for the phone, are a little quieter now, resting on the blanket or against your chest. Your eyes feel heavier, not from more scrolling, but from the simple act of finally being allowed to get tired without more stimulation. Nothing big happened. You didn't swear off your phone forever. You didn't design a new life philosophy. You just stayed with yourself a bit longer than usual. You let your mind be loud without immediately running away from it. You allowed your feelings to exist without putting them on trial. That might not look impressive from the outside. No one gives awards for laying in bed and actually listening to your own head for a while. But internally, it matters. Every small moment where you don't abandon yourself builds something, a kind of quiet familiarity with your own inner world. Not love yet, maybe, not trust, not fully, but a beginning. You don't need to decide tonight what this means for tomorrow. Tomorrow will bring its own noise, its own patterns, its own temptations to leave yourself again. That's okay. You're not signing a contract with your future. You're just being gentle with your present. So if sleep comes, let it come. If it doesn't, you are still allowed to rest, to lie there, eyes closed or half open, listening to the soft hum of the house, feeling the weight of the blanket on your legs, letting the night hold you even if your thoughts are not perfectly quiet. Maybe nothing needs fixing tonight, maybe noticing is enough. And if at some point your mind starts to get loud again, tomorrow, next week, some random Tuesday, you'll at least know that there is a way to meet that noise that doesn't immediately involve running from yourself. You can come back to this room, this space, this kind of conversation, not to solve everything, just to not be alone in it. Sometimes being understood changes something, even quietly.